All right, today, taking out the inlays in this old Gretsch guitar. You can see it's probably a 50s model. It's a Gretsch Country Club. It's a very cool old guitar. The neck, I've got the neck back on it. The neck had popped off of it. So I've got to put some new frets in it. And in order to get a good angle over the bridge, it's right here, going to have to take a little bit out of the, going to have to angle the fretboard just, maybe take a millimeter off here, take nothing off on this end. But in order to take some of the fretboard out, these inlays, oh my word, they are just, let me show you one. Pardon me while I grab an inlay here. There you go. Look how thin these inlays are. They're just like paper out on the edges. So when you look at inlays for guitars, you can always tell what kind of, if you need to remove them or not, by the edges of the inlay will have a very bluish kind of color, because they're so thin that the color of the wood is peeking back up through the thinness of the inlay. So let's pop off this inlay right here. I'm going to try to do this with one hand. Let's see if I can. Put a couple of heat blocks on it, and all that is just some cardboard covered with tinfoil. Let me get my heat lamp. I like to use a heat lamp. My word, I've used this old heat lamp right here for the last 40 years. This bulb has burned in this heat lamp. Anyway, I like the heat lamp because it gets heat consistent all over the piece and also all over the wood. Got to make sure that my inlays on the edges are covered up. The binding is covered up on the edges with a piece of tape. I forgot to do that on one of them, on this inlay right here. And you can't see it because it's repaired pretty good. I haven't finished cleaning off the edge bound. It'll be scraped real good when we put the frets in. But that white right there caught on fire, and I had to dig down in it with a Dremel tool, and then put another piece of binding on it. I have an old box I've had for decades, and it has all sorts of bindings in it. Anyway, you get a little heat on it, just like that. And you want it hot enough to where you wet your finger and then touch it and go, oh, that's hot enough right there. Let's don't hurt ourselves, because this stuff right here will just get blazing hot. All right, then I take a razor blade, and I start in the corner right there. Gosh, it's kind of hard to do one hand. You can see how the edges of it has softened. Look at that. You can just stick your razor blade right down in there. Then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to cut a line there. And then while I'm trying to do this with one hand, I'll cut. Let me get a little bit better situation here. There we go. I'm going to cut a line just right along the edge there. Boom. Maybe try a little up top. Boom. You can see the little stuff popping out of it right there. Little filler material. Then since I've got, there we go, right there. Since I've got a good opening there, I'm going to, yeah, there we go. Get it right down there. And then I'm going to start very easily just twisting that up. Has it moved? I think it's moving. Oh, there we go. Now, since that's, oh, popped right off. Get that out of there. All right. You can see that this piece has good thickness. I don't think I'll be taking the rest of them out. I'll probably leave these two in because they've got plenty of thickness to work with. But that's how you do that. This is something that you really don't want to do because now you got to go back with a chisel and you got to clean all this stuff out. But you do that after you level your board down. And like I said, I've got to remove a little bit more on this end, and I don't want to remove anything on that end. That'll keep my neck pitch up to where everything's going to clear the pickups after putting this neck back on. I did a little little reset on it, cut out just a taste so get me a little bit better angle on it. But anyway, that right there is how you remove inlay from old guitars. A nice piece of Brazilian rosewood. Look at that. Boy, you won't find a piece of Brazilian rosewood like that these days unless you pay a lot of money for it. Crazy Gretsch truss rod too. The nut is a square. I just use one end of a socket. That'll do it. Just flip it around and with an Allen wrench use that on the other end of the socket that you would normally put on a nut. Sometimes they're hex, whatever, but they'll work. Anyway, I tested the truss rod before I did this because old Gretsches are notorious for having very poor truss rods and not working very well. So before I did anything, I wanted to get this one going with knowing that the truss rod was good so that I would know how much I would be able to level the board and expect the string tension to pull it up just a little bit and then know that I could lock it back down. Always remember, cover up your binding edges when you put your heat shields on there because right there on the edge, the heat will definitely do that. And when this old celluloid binding catches fire, it just blows. It's amazing how fast it'll burn. Anyway, like I said, I had to replace that one, and that will, after I sand everything down and level this, and it's going to look like that one. I scraped a little bit here and a little bit there just to make sure that the colors would match up real nice. And it's going to be a good repair. It's a great old guitar that deserves to be fixed. This is the other dearming pickup here. You can't drop it down in the body because of the pickup adjustment screws are about that deep. So most of the time, if it's a humbucking pickup, I'll just wrap it in cloth and drop it in there and just get it out of the way. That way, I won't have to disconnect any of the wiring or anything. Anyway, it's going to be a great guitar. I just thought for somebody that might be pulling inlays out of instruments, that's a way to do it. It is not the only way. It's just the way that I've always done it, and you can see that it works pretty doggone good. Thank you.